there has been kind of limited sensory input this past year.
Yeah.
And some of it, of course, is, totally health related. And some of it is self-imposed or, depending on people's comfort levels. And it feels like now even just seeing the renewal of spring and feeling it and hearing people's voices in person again and being able to hug people who are vaccinated is just like, these are all of the sensorial inputs that we haven't been able to experience collectively for the past year. And like hearing music in person again, I mean, starting to hear people busk in the subway again has been really great.
This digital project that you're sort of leading with the orchestra is ambitious in its own right, because we haven't seen this kind of representation of musicians, at least I haven't. As you talk to all these people, you started to see other sides of it or other facets. And was there anything that really surprised you?
I think what has surprised me the most is actually how open most people are and how thoughtful and how often they've reflected on their experiences throughout the pandemic. I actually haven't seen content like this that really is about the human element in the pandemic. And even though Spoleto is a larger organization, the fact that they are really taking time to highlight the musicians and their experience is something that I think is desperately needed right now. And I think that everybody's stories are really important.
We've seen people talk, to famous soloists or, the performers that are usually more of like the face of something and the ones that are the marketed side of something. Yeah. Whereas the orchestra is this indispensable part of the festival, and the orchestra is in many ways completely unique because it's the only entity within the festival that you get for any of these productions where you're actually bringing in 90 people that are all coming from somewhere else. Some of them know each other, some of them don't, and they're bringing their skill set, their own priorities, and their own baggage as well. And yet what we see from the festival side, from the audience side, is we see the orchestra as one entity. That is an orchestra. I met one musician, so I know what goes on there. But this is the chance to look within that and see that the orchestra is really this rich and diverse range of experiences and has these people bringing different things to it, which is part of what enables them to create something really special when they come together.
Well, it's like that strength and diversity and the unity that can come from diversity. And I was also thinking about how the orchestra is actually the only group in the festival that goes between different productions.
Yes.
And different parts of the festival. And that does not happen often. We all accepted this kind of transient, very fluid nature of relationships that happen as performers, which in some ways is really great. Like at Spoleto, you have this set time to return. I think the pandemic enabled people, and myself included, to really deepen the relationships. It was almost like the relationships that were supposed to deepen did. I had the opportunity also to go back to my hometown in Honolulu, Hawaii, before we really knew how long the pandemic was going to last. And I had left in mid-March thinking it would be my spring break, and actually ended up staying through July. And that was just an experience I think we'll never, knock on wood, never be able to have again, maybe, or just to have that time where you're really focused on being with the people that, maybe you haven't been with for a long time.
This is, for many of us, the first time you've ever had a break from performing. For many people, it was even since they started playing their instrument when they might have been 3. That means it gives you the chance to think about who you are outside of performance and who you are outside of your instrument, cultivating something beyond just work. But more than that, I think this gave musicians the chance to explore their relationship with music and with performing. Like, is this really what you want to be doing? And I think we both know so many people who realized, whoa, I've never taken the chance to question whether or not this was the right path for me. And for some of them, they've realized it wasn't, that they were unhappy in so many ways that they didn't take the chance to reflect on and observe and understand. They can be happier. They can maintain some connection to music if they want and enjoy it on their terms. But this is the first chance a lot of musicians have had to reevaluate their relationship to their art and actually ask themselves the question of like, am I happy doing this?
You will always have the skills
Yes.
that you've maintained all these years, 20 plus years as a musician and as a performer and as a professional musician.
Yeah.
And like any other skills that you develop, in a different career path will only augment that.
Yes.
And will augment the appreciation for the arts. And you don't ever want to limit your identity.
Absolutely.
And that's something, of course, we've talked about with each other,
Yeah.
and also with the musicians I've talked with these past couple of weeks. It's just been so eye-opening, I think, for everybody to realize that, like,
Yeah.
as performers, you are limiting yourself in certain ways because you have to, because you are choosing to practice instead of cook. But now it's like, I think people can create more of a balance,
Yeah.
and they don't feel like they have to foreclose on their
Yeah.
identity, daily
Yeah.
or throughout their lifetime. And that's been, I think, maybe the biggest shift I've noticed.
Yeah.
To really have to contemplate where they're going to go. And I mean, that's really a gift to be able to do that. That has been really inspiring. Yeah. And speaking of special skills, what have some of your special skills been that the 2020
skills?
Yeah.
I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the kitchen like everyone else, and I am not burnt out on it. I am still discovering new recipes. One of the things my roommates and I have been the happiest to learn about is where we've gotten quite good at making hand-pulled noodles for like Taiwanese beef noodle soup. One of my roommates used her family recipe for the soup itself, but we, have spent time learning just how to make the hand-pulled noodles, and we've done it a handful of times, and they're so good.
Wow. Okay. Well, I know what's happening after this.
Right.
Yeah.